meeting the people that continue to come here, brand new people, never discovered or never knew what a farmed animal sanctuary was, discovered us randomly through some website we didn't even know we were posted on anymore. And hearing the feedback and the comments and just seeing those kind of like hearts come up in their eyes, those light bulbs pop up over their heads. Is what continues to give me hope. I may receive 10 no's, but that one yes is what keeps me going. But to be honest, too, like it's the residents. I absolutely love these guys. And I know that my purpose, is to continue to fight for them and for those that we can't necessarily rescue. So yeah, it gives me hope. Like there's still good out there. And I think if we continue to put that good out, that good will continue to grow. So that's what keeps me hopeful.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people and support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Today's guest is Kelly Nix. Kelly is the executive director of Luvin Arms Animal Sanctuary, a farmed animal sanctuary in Colorado dedicated to rescuing and providing lifelong care to animals such as pigs, goats, and chickens. A former special education teacher and K-12 principal, Kelly brings a unique educational perspective to her advocacy work. She currently serves on the boards of the Institute for Critical Animal Studies and Brave New Life Project. Kelly is pursuing dual graduate degrees, an EDD at Antioch University, where her dissertation, The Web of Liberation, explores the interconnected systems of oppression across human, non-human, and ecological domains, and an MSL, Master of Studies in Law, specializing in animal law at Lewis and Clark Law School Center for Animal Law Studies. An ethical vegan and dedicated animal advocate, Kelly identifies as a scholar practitioner committed to bridging academic research with direct advocacy to create a more just and compassionate world for all beings. Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I have been fortunate to have visited your beautiful property, and I've heard your founder, Shaleem Shah, tell his personal story of how it all started with him. And I have to tell you that story sticks with me to this
Mhm.
day. And it was basically centered around starting off with horses until he
Mhm.
went to an auction to see these farm animals and how they were just terrified. And that image just has never left me. What a wonderful opportunity to get to see where you actually are working. And of course, there's so much more to your story. You come from such a strong background in education as both a teacher and a principal. I'm wondering how these experiences inform your understanding of how children learn compassion, especially toward animals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to comment first about Charlene telling his story. So I have had the privilege of hearing this story multiple times over 4 years. And just like you, I have the exact same kind of experience. It seems like every time I hear that story, that feeling, that similar feeling that you mentioned is the same feeling I have every single time. Um, but yeah, so as far as my experience in public education, both as a special ed teacher and then into the administration world and translating that and understanding how kids learn compassion, right? Again, there's so much curriculum out there. There are great experts and specialists that work in schools that specialize in social emotional care. However, I think that it really comes down to the educators, the various staff that work in school systems. are the direct teachers themselves through role modeling behavior, right? So what they're demonstrating towards others, I think, is almost the most powerful form of education because kids are very, very attuned to their surroundings. And really, if we're asking them to model a certain sort of behavior or to, have this moral or ethic, right, ingrained into their system, it starts with the educators themselves. And you can see that directly in classrooms with how teachers interact with the students, or even how they may interact with other adults in the building. And so, yes, there's great material out there to help support in that educational learning, but it really comes from that concept of like, I do, we do, and you do. And so I would say that's what I see translate and really helps students to understand and embody compassion, and have that carry out into their lives outside of the educational setting.
Yeah, I think about this a lot because, I know you have guests of all ages, but my focus, as I know yours is also, is on our youth because they're the ones that are the most receptive in some cases, and they're also the ones that have, the legacy of a planet, that they need to have in good hands if they're going to be around. So I
Mhm.
just, I frequently think about how do we have a great experience at a sanctuary and not just say, okay, that was interesting and go home and live our lives as we were. How do we make those lasting changes? Are there any sort of examples or offerings that you put in place, outreach, after the fact to keep compassion on the front?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing that I've learned from the educational system that I've carried over here is it's only going to be meaningful and applicable if you can apply it to real world, like life examples or everyday lived experiences. So, for example, when kiddos come here of all ages, we go through the tour, and depending on the group and what the teacher may be teaching, that may look different from age group to content level, so on and so forth. But as far as making that, or I guess having this experience continue on outside of the sanctuary, um, so a couple things that we offer is like adopting, right, or sponsoring one of our residents as a classroom. So a lot of schools, unfortunately, still do where they bring live pets in, and the classroom is responsible for caring for that individual, class pet. We're trying to change that narrative, right, and those ideas to why, how about as a class you get to sponsor one of our residents, right? And then so we offer things where they get like a free classroom poster of that resident that they sponsor. They do quarterly check-ins, right? A free field trip is offered. But then we also try to tie in, obviously, like a lot of kiddos may have your traditional companion pets at home. And so we try to tie in those same behavioral characteristics that maybe a goat has that aligns with a cat or aligns with a dog or a goldfish or whatever it may be for them. And so it's trying to make it where, yes, you maybe just saw this goat one time on a field trip, but we're now trying to bring that resident into their classroom. So it's a constant reminder of seeing that resident. So it doesn't become something that becomes like a lost experience. It's almost like we are trying to get them to invest in the care of that resident. And so we have seen really great success, obviously, in those types of situations with elementary age kiddos. With high school and middle school, it doesn't translate as well. It kind of gets lost. I mean, high school teachers aren't usually having classroom pets. And so in those cases, we try to offer like internship opportunities. A lot of schools now go towards vocational skills or CTE programming. And so we work very closely with a couple school districts here in Colorado that offer like animal science related vocational courses in their district. So we try to tie in the sanctuary as an opportunity for those, for that kind of like crossover. So they're not just going to a vet clinic to learn how maybe a dog or a cat experiences or goes through a surgery process. We'll have them come to the sanctuary and shadow our care team for the day. Sometimes it might be over a 6-week period. And so we've worked and individualized every single experience because it's not going to look the same for each classroom and for each school district. So those are just some of the things. Hopefully that answers the question. But yeah.
I know from experience, because being a mother, I've also done outreach programs in schools in the past where once you hit adolescence, there's a lot of peer pressure. And so you'll get
Yeah.
a group of individuals who look at you blankly and you think, no, they're not getting any of this. They're not taking it in. They're not enjoying this. And then you get the feedback that they've written out and they got quite a bit out of it. So you never know. You can't always, you got to understand where they're at in their growth, right? So
Hmm.
sometimes it may not appear as though they think it's cool perhaps to be as emotive, but
Hmm.
it's still, there's other ways to reach out to them, like you said. And I think that's great because that's so important. You don't want to see, you know, the young, fresh, unfiltered compassion that we have naturally,
Hmm.
being, chopped down, basically by society. And
Hmm.
so that's why I know sanctuaries are just critical. So I really am so impressed with all the work you do, not only because of your background, not only because of the work you're doing at Love and Arms, but also the fact that you are taking it to another level through your education. And I love what you've got here about your dissertation. So I thought we might talk a minute about that. Your dissertation, The Web of Liberation, explores interconnected systems of oppression. So I'm curious, Kelly, how would you describe that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first entered into this world of farmed animal sanctuaries and animal advocacy, um, I found myself, really immersed in like all things animal based. And the more I started connecting with other organizations or even learning about other organizations, I'd always kind of wondered, like, why are we not working together? And then throughout my dissertation program, I would start to dive into different theories and different experts within various fields. And, we always talk about like, well, as far as like, I attended the Institute for Humane Education, and what they really focus on is, human, the environment, and animals. And working at the sanctuary, I realized or I noticed that we were doing a lot of talk about animals. But then, in some advocacy based opportunities, we'd start talking about how, animal agriculture impacts the environment, which then impacts the workers or the humans that maybe work in these systems. And so the more I started digging and the more I got involved, I realized that a lot of these organizations, whether if it's animal based, environmental based, or human rights based, that we're all operating in silos, right? Like we are like, so for those of us in animal welfare, we are just like animal rights. We've got to shut down these, slaughterhouses. We've got to put fur bans into place. And we're focusing on the animals, which is still very much what I'm passionate about. But by shutting that down, we're not also addressing maybe the oppressions that humans are also facing. And so for me, part of my dissertation is looking at all of these various oppressions, whether if it's about human rights or racism or sexism or ageism, like all of the different isms, all of the different various organizations out there working almost independently or maybe just in collaboration with one other sort of organization. But for me, it's like in order to really make any sort of impact, we really collaboratively need to all come together. We need to recognize that animal welfare or like animal agriculture impacts the welfare of humans, it impacts the welfare of the environment. And so by sitting on the board for Brave New Life Project, my hope was to start bridging that gap between animal, agriculture and the individuals working within the system and how they're impacting and bringing more awareness to that. And so, yeah, so essentially the whole web concept, I was diving into all of these different systemic oppressions. And my son at the time, who was 6, came running in. He's really into like Marvel superhero comics and was obsessed with Spider-Man. So he was like, wearing a Spider-Man hoodie, and I'm looking at it and it's got a big web on it. And so we just started talking about Spider-Man, what makes him so cool, what's so cool about his webs. And he was like, well, it's because they're all connected, Mom. Like, he connects things, it all comes together. And I was just thinking, like, huh. Okay, like, does this make sense? Does this make sense in the work that I'm trying to do? And so, really, it kind of stemmed from this conversation about Spider-Man and how cool his webs are, and how, like, all the strands are connected, and you have these nodes that are connecting the strands, and then which evolved into, like, oh, well, really, in order for collective liberation, we really all have to come together. So, that's kind of how that came to be. I'm in the defense phase of my dissertation as we speak, with the hopes of being done this summer. But I will definitely be happy to share. I've created also a graphic and educational tool to share with others, along with resources that align, just to show, like, how things are connected and what we can do within our own kind of areas of expertise, and how we can connect with other organizations to start essentially, like, bridging those gaps, to make a bigger impact. So, yeah.
If you're just joining us,
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
if you're just joining us, we're speaking with Kelly Nix of Luvin Arms Animal Sanctuary, and this is Better Life for Animals. Kelly, as an ethical vegan and scholar, how do you explain the moral and emotional significance of veganism to young audiences without overwhelming them?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So I'm a big believer in meeting people where they're at. And so, when people come here to the sanctuary, obviously our goal is for individuals to walk away having either had, like, an aha moment, a moment of connection or understanding. And so, when we're here at the sanctuary, we're not necessarily pressing certain key terms like vegan, 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 or slaughter, because again, those words tend to be a turnoff. And people want to shut down right away. And then we recognize that they're not open or receptive to what we're about to talk about. And so, generally, it's just getting to know these individuals, these young minds, understanding, like, what their current lived experiences are, and how can the sanctuary and what we do apply to what they're currently experiencing, or what they're hoping to be when they grow up. So a lot of times, when when young kiddos come here to the sanctuary, our very first thing is trying to identify what specific resident or species of resident is going to resonate with that kiddo. And once that's determined, and generally it's usually your big fluffy guys like cows, right? Or maybe your goats. We do have lots of pot bellies, and people tend to gravitate towards them. And so, once we identify that resident or that species that clicks with that individual, we start to talk about that species. We talk about, interesting facts like, did you know pigs can smell 20 feet underground? Or did you know that goats discovered coffee, right? And so we're trying to find those little bits of interesting information that's going to get that individual to start engaging in that conversation. And then generally it just slowly evolves naturally, which I found has been the most successful, versus trying to shove down information onto these individuals. And then you just start gradually having those conversations like, oh, again, a lot of times, whether if it's young kids or adults, the dairy industry is still something that's very unknown to a lot of people. And I was actually one of those people years ago. And it was learning about the dairy industry here at the sanctuary that shifted my whole trajectory and what I was going to do in life. And so, you will start to find those kind of, like, natural connections and open doors to start giving that information and talking about, well, did you know that cows, only make milk because they become mommies, right? And so you start having those conversations. And again, depending on the age level, will depend on the word usage that you're essentially having, right? So I may not say mommy to a high school kiddo, but to an elementary age kid, I would. And so again, the goal is not obviously the goal is I would love for everyone who leaves the sanctuary to be like, yep, makes sense, got it, going vegan today. And I'm going to tell my family and I'm going to hold true to this. Um, does that ever happen? Not sure, but what does happen and the feedback that we receive is that we get people who will follow up and say, like, they're like, thank you. This really meant a lot. Learning about dairy really impacted, and I'm giving up dairy. And for me, that is a win, right? And hopefully that translates into, oh, now I understand that the dairy industry is the meat industry. And so now they're going to give up meat. And so for us, it's about gradual steps. And then hopefully it turns into more. And then we try to do our best to follow up with those groups, right? Whether if I'm calling in to do a quick Zoom check-in and reconnect with the kids, I really am a big believer in ensuring that there's follow-up and intentional relationship building, because that's kind of like my way to not necessarily hold them accountable, but to just know that someone cares, we're checking in, um, and that I'm there to help continue any sort of educational growth, which hopefully changes into some lifestyle overhauls. But yeah.
We like to focus on helping sanctuaries remain um, profitable so that they can be sustainable for the long haul because we know animals
Yeah.
live for decades. I'm wondering what are some of Love and Arms' more successful initiatives in that area?
Yeah, so we have done a really great job with our events. And so generally events, people tend to think like it's financially focused, right? Like we have this end goal, we want to raise X amount of dollars with our events. We've actually gone a completely different direction. For us, the value comes in the people who come to visit, right? Again, we want more and more people to come and discover Love and Arms. And if it's not Love and Arms, a farmed animal sanctuary of any kind. And so when I first started working here, we would charge, $5 admission fees to our events. And some of our events, for example, like we have Maybell's Kissing Booth, which is something we do annually. Maybell is one of our wonderful, wonderful Jersey Swiss mixed cow residents. And so we have like this old time fashion, like kissing booth that we've made. And Maybell will it's like she just knows. She knows it's kissy time. She loves to give licks to everybody. So she will come and literally, we don't have to do anything. She's like, oh, there's the kissing booth. And she will come stand. Visitors come and they get to take photos and get licks by, Miss Maybell. And before we used to charge for that. And we know that sometimes the financial component can be a turnoff for folks, even if it's a low dollar amount, like say $2 to gain entry. For us, we decided to shift our thinking, right? For that sustainability component is to garner more attention or awareness about what farmed animal sanctuaries do and the purpose that we serve here. And so we started waiving all of the fees. And the minute we started doing that, we noticed that like our attendance rates one year would be like maybe 250 people for this event to up to like 500 or 750 people are coming out for this 2.5, 3 hour event to kiss Maybell. And so for us, the sustainability and that financial component comes through making it accessible, right? And not putting up any sort of barriers that could deter people from wanting to come. But then you will naturally find people are coming, then you build those relationships, and who knows, right? Like you can find amazing long-term donors just through these simple events. So that's one thing that we've done that's quite successful.
Excellent. I'm still really in admiration of the fact that while you're working a full-time job, you're also a student, and not just a student, but you're looking to get a law degree in this animal advocacy space, which I just think is so important. And
Yeah.
especially with, the political climate that we're living in today, and I realize that it's a moment and things can change, but so much of what we talk about, it takes it at one angle. But I'm also of the opinion that, and I think you must agree, it's also going to have to come through political will, through legislation. And that's why I'm so interested in hearing more about this law degree. Tell me more about it and tell us how you see it helping in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, I have no intention, I want to be very clear, of practicing law by any means. I really am an education individual. And the reason why I chose to seek this out is because I do believe that sanctuaries are a much more powerful force within this fight than maybe are given credit for. And the amount of people that I engage with. So, we keep track with the number of people that we engage with because we want to be able to share that with folks. And just in 2025 alone, we engaged with over 45,000 people in just that year. And a lot of times I'm finding that I'm having these conversations, which will eventually kind of evolve to policy. And for someone who's a big advocate and being a lifelong learner, I recognize that an area that I just was not as knowledgeable about was within animal law, specifically more farmed animal law. And so I sought out this opportunity and was given this wonderful opportunity to participate in this program to strengthen my own understanding to be a better advocate. Because at the end of the day, like my job is to connect with individuals and to meet them where they're at. So whether if it's an individual that's coming from a background that has a very strong understanding in law, but maybe not animal law, my hope is that I can essentially meet them where they're at because I know that this is just not anything I've ever ventured into. I mean, I can talk about what happens in the industry, I can talk about the impacts. I do all of that work and research through my dissertation, but then I noticed that the gap that I'm missing is that kind of fundamental understanding of law and then animal law. And so by going through this, my hope is that I'm able to, not just myself, but for Love and Arms to be a better advocate in the work that we're doing. And then I want to be able to take the information that I learn and teach others, right? Because then they will take that information out there and be just even stronger or better advocates. So, yeah, I don't want to practice law. I've got a lot on my plate as it is, but I definitely for myself, just wanted to be more knowledgeable and a better advocate for farmed animals. So this is why I decided to also pursue this educational opportunity.
Excellent. Well, I noticed that you're also on the board of the Institute for Critical Animal Studies. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the Institute for Critical Animal Studies is really focused on scholars within the movement, right? And so again, the primary focus is the animal component, but it does go into realms of like, human welfare, environmental welfare. We talk a lot about disability, so on and so forth. And so my role, which is probably not surprising as a board member, is the educational component. And so it's building out an institute, like a 3, 5 day course for individuals to become more aware about the scholarly work that's out there, to connect them with advocates who are doing this incredible work. This is my second year on the board, and we're not quite there yet with the Institute, but the hope is in 27 we'll be able to roll something out. But again, it's really about connecting and building a wider community and a stronger community for individuals who are essentially advocating for all of the things that we've been talking about. But obviously, for me, it's really that focus on animals and more specifically farmed animals. But part of the Institute for Critical Animal Studies, I'm also trying to bring sanctuaries into that movement. Again, I feel that sanctuaries they've tended to kind of go to the bottom of the hierarchy of importance of individuals that are within the movement, right? We've got like individuals who focus on um, plant-based food, or they're talking about animal legislation. I know that people don't necessarily always think that farmed animal sanctuaries have a great impact in shaping or reshaping the minds of individuals or making a change towards a more compassionate world. And so, my hope is also through ICAST to bring farmed animal sanctuaries into that conversation and to show the importance and relevance that we have, and to also demonstrate through data the impact that we have on our communities.
Very good.
Yeah.
So let's just finish with a couple thoughts. I always want to highlight the good work that your sanctuary is doing. I love your sanctuary. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about what you have planned for the year so that we can get you a little bit of publicity. And then also, I'd like to just end it with, looking ahead, what makes you feel hopeful and for the next generation, and what are you seeing as positive, little initiatives?
Yeah. So, as far as what we have planned for the year, we definitely have lots of events that are coming up. And again, all free to the community, with the exception for our 5K runs. We do host two of those on Mother's Day as well as on Thanksgiving. And obviously, all donations collected for that go directly back to the animals and the care that we do for them here. And so, the other thing too, we rolled out last year, we found super successful is community days. And so those align with significant days that are celebrated or held in honor of animals every single year. So whether if it's World Farmed Animal Day, it's a free day to the sanctuary. People are welcome to come, connect with residents. And so that's been really successful. And then I would say, we also are a sanctuary that participates with the LEAP program. And
Wonderful.
so we absolutely love LEAP and the work that they're doing. And so we're really excited because this is the first year that we've had middle schoolers, because we started with high school. And the interest shown has been, I don't want to say it's surprising, but it is surprising considering we are a state, especially where we're located, that's very much about 4-H and FFA. And so to see this interest from students, right, they are seeking us out because we put that information out there, has been overwhelmingly positive. But kind of something you mentioned earlier about the peer pressure, things like that, we find that still tends to be a barrier because they're concerned about, like, well, if my friends find out. So we're working through that, but we absolutely love Leap and we're excited to be doing our third year. And so, yeah, so we're just going to continue our educational initiatives. We want to reach more schools. And then as far as something I'm hopeful for, you know, given the current times and everything that we're seeing, it can be very disheartening. And I don't know, the sanctuary is very much a safe space. And I feel like once I leave the gates of the sanctuary, I'm entering into that real world. But I will have to say that even though with everything going on and the things that and things that have always been going on, meeting the people that continue to come here, brand new people, never discovered or never knew what a farmed animal sanctuary was, discovered us randomly through some website we didn't even know we were posted on anymore. And hearing the feedback and the comments and just seeing those kind of like hearts come up in their eyes, those light bulbs pop up over their heads. Is what continues to give me hope. I may receive 10 no's, but that one yes is what keeps me going. But to be honest, too, like, it's the residents. I absolutely love these guys. And I know that my purpose, is to continue to fight for them and for those that we can't necessarily rescue. So yeah, it gives me hope. Like, there's still good out there. And I think if we continue to put that good out, that good will continue to grow. So that's what keeps me hopeful.
I love it, Kelly. Tell us how we can find you and how we can support you.
Absolutely. So our website is lovinarms.org, and that is spelled LUVIN, And so check out our website, all of our events, volunteer opportunities, ways to donate. to purchase our merch, everything is located on that website. So definitely, plan to spend some time there. And then other ways, just even if it's not supporting us directly, please support a farmed animal sanctuary. There are farmed animal sanctuaries everywhere. Just Google it in your local area. If you're here in Colorado, reach out to me directly, send me an email through the website. I'm more than happy to take you on a personalized tour. And I'm sure sanctuaries out there, all across the US are willing to do the same. But I think we just need to bring more attention to the sanctuaries that are out there that are doing this good work. And I know sometimes it's hard to find or even understand or know that this is even a thing. So Google it and come find us.
Excellent. Thank you, Kelly. This has
Yeah.
been Kelly Nix of Luvin Arms Farm Animal Sanctuary, and I'm Cheryl Moss of Better Life for Animals. And if you've enjoyed today's conversation, please like and subscribe so that we can create a better life for animals.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.